When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! You're watching Septum Sin vs. the World, and this is Video Game Diaries. I have quite a collection of movies, in case you haven't figured. But I also have an okay collection of video games, and I really love the horror genre. But this is a physical media channel, so I am dedicating this to games that I feel fit the season. They're not all horror games, but I will explain why I figure each one makes the list. So strap in tight as we go over video games in my collection that are Halloween related. So first we're going to start about the portable section. I have a 3DS and a Vita, and technically the Switch if you count that as a portable, but I have the regular Switch and I usually like to play, well, I play it kind of half on, half off. And really I only have games that aren't digital that are related on the Vita, well, game, and the Switch. So let's start with the Vita. It's only one. One I regret. And that is Silent Hill Book of Memories. I love the Silent Hill games. So when I knew that there was one on a system I didn't have, it made me want the system. It's actually weird that one of the system sellers is a game I cannot stand. This is almost isometric style. It's done in a way that's kind of popular because it's kind of roguelike. I mean, you know, you got these randomly generated dungeons you go through with kind of Silent Hill-ish enemies and kind of bare bones-ish story. It's still, I don't know, not worth getting, in my opinion, unless you really are a Silent Hill fan. I think it's the last Silent Hill that they released, which makes it even sadder, considering that Silent Hills was going to be awesome. But, alas, we have this and pachinko machines, and sadly I don't know which one of those is a better fit. Alright, next up. For the Switch, we have The Binding of Isaac. Now this one is actually also has Afterbirth, so it has all of the Binding of Isaac materials on it. See, look at that cute little guy. Well, Isaac is this little boy whose mother kind of got a little bit tired. I think she believed that God was telling her to kill him, and she threw him in the basement with all her other aborted fetuses, and there's all these deformed, terrible monsters. This is also a roguelike, and it plays kind of like a twin-stick shooter roguelike that is in a very disturbing mode. Also, you've got to kill your mother at the end. Now, it's also disturbing the fact that you use your own tears as your projectiles to defend yourself. I would say that Binding of Isaac is a very good Halloween-y type game, because this is very dark, it's very disturbing, there's lots of monsters in it, and it's hard to get darker than this. I mean, it really is. Alright, as you can see, I got my first little stack here. I'll put this up here. Alright, next up is Dark Souls Remastered. I've got this twice, by the way. And I did beat one version of this, which I talked about in a previous Video Game Diaries episode. Dark Souls is not necessarily very Halloween-y, but it is very dark. It deals with undeath. It deals with a lot of ghosts and monsters. So one could make the case. Now there's another one on this series that's related to this that I think is a lot more like that. But again, I feel like Dark Souls is sort of a Halloween-y type thing. You can play this during that time, and I don't see where you're going to have any worries. There are some scary parts, especially if you try to do it without dying. And of course, the scariest game of all, Night Trap from Limited Run Games. Night Trap scared a lot of people, apparently, including congressmen, as they tried to get it banned. This was one of the games that started us talking about our video games too violent. Essentially, the concept in the game is that you are running this camera and you've hacked into this house's security system, and there's these weird vampire ninja things that are walking around the mansion, and you've got to take them out before they take out the family. There's no real blood, there's no real gore, it's very cheesy, it's all live action video, and it's hard as nails. But it has a lot of fun to it, a lot of cheese to it. One of these days I'll beat this so I can just watch the whole thing, so I can watch all the story parts of the video. But still, no. There were lots of worse games out at the time, trust me, than Night Trap, as far as parental insanity was to blame. So we're moving also into the solely TV genre, and not handheld. And when we go into PlayStation, I've actually only got 2 PlayStation 1 games right now. I've got a lot of these other ones, again, on digital, because I do love the old school. I wish I had more of them that way. But I have 2 that I really think were excellent. 1, Parasite Eve, and 2, Parasite Eve 2. Screw Third Birthday. Used to have Third Birthday, one of the few Vita games I got rid of because it's a terrible game. It craps on the franchise. Heck with that game. This is probably one of the better survival horror RPGs of all time. I wish that they could get a good remaster on it. Take those same mechanics, buff them up a little bit, and this would be super awesome yet again. It's only the fact that it has its age that has limited this. Now, I actually found this game to be almost as disturbing story-wise, but I feel like the mechanics, they were trying too much to be a survival horror. A lot of the customization was not quite as good. Still, worth a try, and worth the playthrough. Alright, now we're at the PlayStation 2 level. Now this is one I really like. I've only played one of the games all the way through, but I'm looking forward to playing the other 2 in this trilogy, and that is Onimusha. Now I got this with the 3. I really like this game. I was really psyched knowing that they did a kind of a rework of the first one. Not a big thing, more of a remaster on the first one, and did release Warlords to the common systems. I'm hoping that they will do the same with the other 2. I would really like to see this series again. It was like Resident Evil with samurai. That's essentially what it was. It had the same tank controls. You had swords. The swords would upgrade. You had multiple elemental swords, and each one had a particular ability, and you could use those swords to get to different places, and each one had a different attack pattern, so you could vary how you wanted to do it. It wasn't super hard, but it was super fun, and it was also very short. But you could do a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool unlockables. It really was worth checking out. If you haven't played it, you should at least check out the first game. It is easy to get a hold of. You can even get it on hard copy, which is also pretty darn cool. Another of the Silent Hill games that I haven't beaten is Silent Hill Origins. I would have gotten it on the Vita, but the Vita version is super expensive. So, or not Vita, I would have gotten it on the PSP, but the PSP version is super expensive. This is good enough. I can play it on the big screen. I'm happy with that. I don't like breakable weapons. This has breakable weapons. It's hard as nails, but it tells the original story of how things went butt up in Silent Hill. Like I said, I never beat it. I really should try it again. I am working my way slowly through the Silent Hill franchise again. I'm not going to do Book of Memories, but I might reattempt this one. It's one of the few Silent Hill games I have not beaten. Out of the official games, I've only not beaten 3 of them, and they'll be covered on this list. Again, I don't consider Book of Memories to be one. I put that with the pachinko machines. So, I would say, check that out. Next up, we have Alice. The Madness Returns. This is definitely a Halloween time event. This had the download for the original one, which is super freaking hard. But this is a twisted version of Alice in Wonderland, addressing things such as mental illness, destruction, pollution, a whole bunch of things, and the controls, while janky on the first game, are really smooth on this one. If you haven't played the first game, you should not have to worry about it. This game, though, if you haven't, you need to check this one out. I don't usually recommend EA products, but this is when EA was actually pretty darn good. Again, excellent for Halloween time. Very creepy. Especially those things with like the porcelain doll faces. Oh my god. So, Demon Souls. What can I say? This is the predecessor to Dark Souls. Well, really that would be Kingsfield, but I'm not going to bother with Kingsfield. This is one I want to play one day. I've seen playthroughs of it. I actually watched an entire sequential on Rage Select for this. So if you ever want to see this played all the way through, you can check Rage Select. But it plays a lot like Dark Souls. It pretty much is Dark Souls, and I've heard rumor that they are remaking this. So that's going to be pretty darn cool. This one is much more Halloween-y than, say, the Dark Souls franchise. A lot more monsters, a lot more evil, a lot more undeadiness. I mean, you play as a ghost. So, what can I say? So, this is one, again, that's a debate. I put this up because this was originally the formula that they were going to use for Resident Evil 4, but they changed it. And that is Devil May Cry. So they took that... Devil May Cry was originally going to be a Resident Evil game, and then they made it into this because they decided to go something different. But this is the trilogy, the HD collection. And I haven't opened this, but I have beaten the first game. A lot of people tell me don't bother with the second game, and that the third game is hard as heck, but it's awesome. I really do like this. You play as Dante, who is this kind of half-demon badass, and he goes around and kills a lot of demons with sword and gun. That's all you really need to know. As far as things go, I do need to get into this again. I really should try and check it out. Maybe when I'm finished with the next game I'm working on. So, I need to wet my whistle. I'm going to come right back with beverage. Now I am prepared. I've got 2 more stacks to go through, so it takes a little bit of something. This, of course, concoction, as you can see, this skeletal brew, is a bit of cider, as it's that time of the year, with a little bit of a kiss of caramel. I won't tell you what type of caramel, because many of you underagers can't replicate, well, you could, but it wouldn't be legal to replicate this particular concoction. The end result is a caramel apple cider. An amazing thing for this time of year. So, we're moving forward in time, still with the PS3. And we have Lollipop Chainsaw. I debated this, but it is kind of a zombie game. It's not really survival horror because you're really not trying to survive. It has a lot of similars to Devil May Cry, really, but it's way over the top. Very fun. You do some cheerleading, you kill some zombies. What else can I say? This is a fun game. I enjoyed it. I never beat it. I need to get back to it. I started playing this towards the end of the time I had with the PlayStation 3. And then I got into PlayStation 4 and I just hadn't gotten back to it. But I have started getting back into PlayStation 3 again, so this might be on my list soon. Alright. Here's one that I'm probably not going to get into anytime soon because everybody tells me it's terrible. And that is Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. As you can see, it hasn't even been opened. It was given to me for Christmas one year. And I'm telling you, this looked like it was going to be awesome. You're actually going in there and Raccoon City as the Umbrella Operatives. So you're back in against the zombies with all of the biomutants. It just sounded like an excellent game. But I've been told it was kind of janky. They didn't put a lot of thought in it. They didn't put a lot of work into it. And that is just a shame. One I haven't really played a lot of, but I've heard it was probably one of the weaker outings in the series, is Silent Hill Downpour. Now, this one you play as kind of escaped convict. I got to see a little bit of it, and the playstyle is quite different, action-wise, than the original. I'm still not sure what I want to do with this one. I really do like the concept, and I want to play this. I really need to get into the other one, because I really want to rebeat 3 and 4. Well, I'll talk about that when I get to them. But yeah, I do think that's one I need to get into again. So another one that I've seen playthroughs for, and I need to get into myself, is Bendy and the Ink Machine. You're going to an old cartoon factory, and you mistakenly bring this evil character back to life. It's creepy and done in old-style animation. I am kind of meh about it right now, but I am wanting to play this eventually, because it does have some creepiness, and I think it'll be creepier actually doing it in person as opposed to watching it, which is how I've gotten this originally. Alright. Bioshock. This is the Bioshock Remastered collection. It has all of them. I've only played the first 2 all the way to completion, but those games, especially the first one, this time of year, this is one of my recommendations to play at this time of year. It is creepy as heck. You play it in the dark, put on some headphones, and you'll be looking around for whatever creepy mutants are after you. You are in a plane, your plane goes down, and you find this lighthouse that leads you to this underwater city, but things are not what they seem. It's trashed, and all you have are these crazy mutants running around. They want to kill you, and you gotta do what you can to survive. This is well worth the money to get. Alright, as I get another sip of my witch's brew here. So, remember I was saying a lot of these games, like the Dark Souls, Demon Souls, not necessarily Halloween. This one, however, is probably the most apt to have in Halloween, and that is Bloodborne. We move into a level where we're dealing with Lovecraftian horror at its finest. This is probably one of the best Lovecraftian games out there. I've heard Sinking City is decent. I've heard the new Call of Cthulhu. I mean, Call of Cthulhu is decent, but this really takes it. It's basically Dark Souls in Cthulhu land. I really enjoyed what I've played of it. It's really hard. I need to get back into it in a serious note like I did with Dark Souls. Because Dark Souls, I played it at first, I just kind of played around with it. I died a few times. I'm like, heck with this. I got other things to do. But when I got serious, I got in there and I beat it. And this is the same thing. I just got to get used to it. I got to play it. I got to put time in. And this is one I need to beat. Another one I need to actually play is Dying Light. I've had this game since I had my PlayStation 4. I mean, really. What am I waiting for? This is supposed to be one of the better zombie survival games on the system. During the day, you just got to make your way through the city, and during the night, you've got to be very careful because the zombies then become super aggressive and you got to run. I really do want to check this out. Again, I got too many games, just like my movies, because I got this and I got hundreds of digital games. One of these days I'll run you all through my digital list and you'll get to see that. But still, Dying Light. Another one I recommend for the Halloween season is The Evil Within. This has gotten some kind of iffy reviews. And, I mean, it's by the creator of Resident Evil. This copy kind of, like, some animal got to it, apparently. But I was glad I got one with the slipcover, because I love the slipcover. This really was a kind of Resident Evil-style game. It brought us back to that kind of crazy Resident Evil. I mean, we had Resident Evil 6 out at the time. It was all action. It really wasn't that scary. And Evil Within came out. That was going to bring us back to the horror again. And it really did. It psychologically screws with you. I don't care if you don't want to play the rest of this game. Play the first scene worth in this game where you have to escape the butcher. And trust me, that will have your blood pumping. No doubt. Now, one that most people will recommend in the series is the second one. I haven't beaten this one. I've beaten the first one. I really wanted to go back since I hadn't played it in a while. And it does creep me out because you're sitting there trying to hide from all those things. And it really is a creepy experience. And this one I've heard tops that. It not only takes the regular formula, which a lot of people complain just didn't bring anything new to the table, this one brings new stuff to the table. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this. I just got to beat the other one. I'm trying to run through it with my wife and this one as well, so we're moving at our own pace. But I do look forward to getting to this in the future. Alright, another one that is kind of on the fence, but is a zombie apocalypse game is The Last of Us. And I've had both versions of this. Is it worth the remaster? Heck yeah, it's worth the remaster. They kick out a lot of bugs that were problems I had when I was playing it on the PlayStation 3. And it does look smoother. I enjoy this game. It's got an excellent narrative. Is very intense. Do I feel it's a Halloween-ish type game? It's on the fence. Because it's more of a drama, a zombie drama, so to speak. I guess closer to Walking Dead than I would say actual super horror, but still, it's worth a try. I think that if you haven't played this game, you owe it to yourself to play this game. Maybe not at this time of year, but after Halloween is over, November 1st, play this game. Alright. Another one that I haven't seen, but this is from I believe, Limited Run Games, is Observer. I've heard this is kind of cool. It's kind of a Johnny Mnemonic type feel. This is more of a horror type, a tech horror type, a sci-fi horror. And I am very curious about this. I don't know a lot. And when I saw it, I said, I'll get a physical copy. I like physical copies. Even game-wise, I really am one of those who believes it should be all physical. I don't like the digital. And I really don't like the concept of the streaming coming up. I gotta be careful. This is Dr. Streaming's seat. Alright. So, we come upon a controversial grouping of 4. Resident Evil 4, which has a very smooth run on the PlayStation 4. I need to replay this game. It was an excellent game. It was probably one of my favorite Resident Evil games. It kind of moved away from the horror a bit, but still kept enough of it that it had a few creepy moments. You're Leon. You are traveling to Spain to help save the president's daughter. And you get into this cultish parasite zombies. It was the first time that they had zombies that could use weapons, that could think, could speak. It was a new type of zombie. They tried something new, much more action-oriented than horror-oriented, but still a very fun game. You should check out Resident Evils during the Halloween time or any time. Then 5 kind of did the same thing. Looked better, control scheme was better, and it had a really cool co-op. If you wanted to, you could go through 2-player and you could kick some butt. But the scarcity was gone. You could keep going back and replaying a lot of levels and just stock up on tons of ammo if you wanted. It really wasn't super hard, but the game had a lot of fun elements to it. And it could have some parts that were intense, but again, I'm not sure about scary at the end of the day. This one, number 6, is the one that's kind of when it comes to how people believe. This one is an action shooter, and it is a pretty fun action shooter, especially if you have a buddy getting in there. And it is intensive shooting-wise. The action is non-stop. You keep moving, you keep having to get it, you keep having to pick up the next bullets. You got to get them because you need all the bullets you can get. It's quick to run out, it's quick to get more. You're always on the edge. And for that, it is a fun experience. I played it all the way through. It was an enjoyable game, but to me it wasn't Resident Evil. So I'm kind of on the fence with this game. But again, I really didn't consider it as much horror. I almost considered this one having scarier moments than 4 or 5 did, but even then, it's more of an action shooter, especially Chris's part. I mean, Chris's part might as well be Gears of War. But let's talk about a Resident Evil that is incredibly scary, one I wish I had the VR for, and that is Resident Evil, the 7th game. This one changed it up, made it first person. It went on the tails of Silent Hills being canceled. Put out a creepy trailer, kind of added to it as you went on, and then it went into this game. I was looking forward to it day one. When that trailer dropped, I played it multiple times trying to get to the bottom of it, figure out what that mannequin finger was all about. This was awesome. I loved it. I need to get back in. I haven't played all of the downloadable content for it. I got distracted. But I do plan on going back through. I want to play it again on New Game Plus, see how I do, play a lot of the extra features, and get psyched up because the 6th game will come out sometime in the future. And not so excited about the co-op game, but we'll see how that goes. And of course, the final of the PS4 games I have is the one reason why I wanted a PS4, and that was Until Dawn. This is an interactive horror film. That's all there is to it. You got a bunch of teenagers, or young adults really at this point. They're out in the woods. They got monsters, they got killers, they got ghosts. And it's up to you to decide whether they live or die. There's some intense moments. It really is a fun interactive experience. You can make this into a party game. You can have people like making the choices or voting yay or nay, and it really does. It's slow to start, but once the killing starts, it starts rolling down the road. This has a lot of replay value. I actually had an all-kill score. I made sure nobody made it out alive. Now we get into the Xbox. So, going back in time again to the original Xbox, we have an awesome game, Silent Hill 4. I wanted to do a playthrough of all the Silent Hill games, the main ones. I've already finished the first two. I need to get through the third one and this one. And then maybe I'll go into Origins and some of the others that you're going to hear about in a minute. I mean, Downpour and then one of the ones on this system. I love this game. It's got this part that's first person. You're in a haunted apartment. And then you go into these third person elements at Silent Hill. It changes up the story. It changes up the dynamics in just the right way. This wasn't a Silent Hill game at first. And I would have bought this thing, whatever type of horror it was, because this premise was just really awesome. If you haven't gotten a hold of this in some way, shape, or form, it's available on, I believe, PlayStation 2 as well, which has my original. But I didn't have PlayStation 2 for a while, so I got this because my Xbox One could play this. And now I've got a modded Xbox, and it plays this also just fine. Well worth checking out. I really enjoy this game. Another one that's super enjoyable, that the sequel, I didn't bother to rebuy the sequel because it was more of an action game, whereas this one, though, it's just a pure survival horror game, and that's The Suffering. This one also, with those original Silent Hills, definite Halloween gaming. This is a haunted prison, essentially. You're getting ready to be sentenced to death. You're on death row. Then all hell breaks loose in the prison, literally. And you get to decide whether you're going to be the good guy or the bad guy or somehow in between. You get 3 different endings, and each ending is all about the play style. And it is great. I love it when I am taken out and I'm wielding 2 Tommy guns going against these creatures that have needles for eyes. It is creepy, it is action-packed, and it is a blast. This is not just I put in here because Bioshock's in it, but I would probably play the remastered at this point. Oblivion I don't really feel is that much in the line of horror. It can be, I guess, but it's still there, and I own that basically because that way I have a copy of Oblivion. So one that's also a creepy one that's kind of out of mind, it needs to be remastered, is Condemned Criminal Origins. You're an investigator, you're going through, and you've got to deal with these maniacs, and they can come at you like right out of the blue. It can be creepy as heck, scary as heck, and again, supplies are kind of dwindling. You got to be careful, and you got to find out the truth of what's going on. Also, one of the better Xbox 360 horror games. If you haven't tried it, again, get a hold of this if you see it. Put it in your Xbox One, it does work, and go at it. Speaking of, the sequel. I haven't played it, I've heard it's alright, not as good as the first. Still, after I finish Condemned, I'm going to have to get into some Condemned too. Now, there is one thing I had forgotten to get. I'll show you real quick. I'm coming. I had forgotten the one I'm playing currently, which is Deadly Premonition, the director's cut. This originally came out on the 360, so I guess I'm in the right lane. It is a combination of Silent Hill and Twin Peaks, and terrible game design. So far, I've been kind of enjoying it. Every Let's Player I've seen go through it has given up on it, saying that it's terrible. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go through it. I've already gotten as far as one Let's Player group has, but getting past the hospital. My next play session, which will probably be next week, I'm sure I'm going to get past where Rage Select got, and I'm hoping to keep going and eventually beat this. I do want to see the end. It looks interesting. It's been slightly entertaining, but definitely janky. Control scheme is kind of terrible. But still, I've been enjoying myself so far. Kind of surreal. Alright, now, classic. Dead Space. I need to play this. I've seen a lot of playthroughs. I played a little bit at the beginning. It looks really cool. You gotta dismember the creatures that are after you. You're on a spaceship. It's supposedly very creepy. Playthroughs I've seen are also very creepy. Another one where you use the ambient noise to your advantage. It's just something well worth checking out. I also got Dead Space 2 here. I have a copy of Dead Space 3 kind of floating around, but again, I don't know whether it's worth it or not. But I've heard that at least the first two are worth having, because they're both creepy as all get out. This one I've heard is very fun and kind of hard to get, which is Shadows of the Damned. I don't know much about this. I know there's a lot of demons, a lot of hell stuff going on, and a lot of people who've played this have told me you gotta get this. It's not that easy to find, so if you find it, you pick it up. This copy has never been opened, which is great. I plan on playing this eventually. I guess that's my life, all of them. So, next up is one that I have played quite a bit of, but I have not beaten it yet, and that is Silent Hill Homecoming. Graphically, it is much better than the others, and it does have stuff. There's a lot that should work with this formula, but it doesn't quite come home like the other games. It has a lot of the creepy, disturbing imagery, but I just don't know. It feels more Resident Evil and less Silent Hill, if you know what I mean. But, again, I just gotta get back into it. I mean, Shattered Memories I used to have, which was the Wii version, which they kind of remade the first game, and that one was also different. I'm one of the few who really thought that they did a decent job with it. I preferred the first game, but I did think that they did something there that did make for a very scary time. I don't know. Alright. 3 more. Dead Rising, number 3. Does this look like... He kind of looks like Norman Reedus on the cover, doesn't he? I love the original Dead Rising. I haven't played any of the sequels. I've been told basically 1 and 2 are where it's at. I got those on PlayStation. And 3 and 4 I've got on here. And I've heard they're kind of just janky. But again, I'm a completionist. And then, of course, this here, which is Dark Souls Collection, has the first game as the remastered edition for the Xbox One, which is the one I did beat because it's the best graphically and runs the most, well, smoothly. And it has this nice steel book with the other games as well. So you got Dark Souls 1 through 3, all of the downloadable content. And I did beat Dark Souls with all of its downloadable content. I'm looking forward to starting the second one. But that first one kind of dominated my life for a long time. So before I get sucked into another Souls game, I just got to be ready for it, you know. Well, that's all of them. I really hope that you've enjoyed this particular run-through of dark games that I have in my collection. What are some games that you like playing during the Halloween season? Are you going back and playing this game? Is this one of your favorites? I mean, I also am playing Costume Quest, which is very much a Halloween game. I actually play on that every year. I've done this. This is the 3rd year running. I've played on Costume Quest throughout. I think I've played... Actually, no, more than that, because I've owned the game since it came out. But I started over 2 years ago. I finally beat it. Now I'm on the DLC trying to beat that. And then I can start the second game. So I've been doing that as a kind of Halloween ritual. What kind of Halloween games do you play or bust out during the Halloween season? Let me know in the comments below. Well, I hope to see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.